Okay, so we are continuing in Mishlei 1915. Yud Tesvav Atzla Tapil Tardema V'nefesh Ramia Tirav. Laziness puts one into a deep sleep, and a Ramia soul will go hungry. And Ramia, we said, means lazy. It also means deceitful in a like shortcutty type way, like you try to cut corners in a deceitful way. So I believe we said yes. I'm going to try summarizing it, and you tell me if I'm missing anything. So first we define, Saadia Gaon defines in his Hakdama laziness as the compulsive need to avoid immediate pain. And then Ramia here he defines as someone who's idle, like who's like batlanus, someone who's like doesn't work because of exhaustion, and it says he will be hungry. So what we said, the idea, the subject of the pasuk is the is misdiagnosing physiological effects as like stemming from the body when really they're stemming from midos. So one of the symptoms of laziness is you sleep a lot, just to avoid confronting the pains of life. And one of the symptoms of idleness when you're like not doing anything is you eat for distraction purposes. And so a person might think, oh, this is really my body telling me that I need to sleep, or this is my body telling me I need to eat, when really it's stemming from these two midos. And so and we noted it's a vicious cycle, because the more you sleep thinking that it's your body needing it, then the more conflicts will accumulate, and then that'll feed your laziness, and then you'll keep on sleeping, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Until you sleep eternally.
Yes, forever sleep. Um, okay, so let's do the meforshim now. Okay, I mean I think that was summary of yesterday. Okay, all right. So I wanted to start actually with the Meiri, because it's related, okay, but in a reversal way, and it's actually not even the Meiri. He quotes Saadia Gaon's Pirush, which is not in the packet. So if you look at the Meiri, he says, where is it one line? Yeah. Atzla tapil tardema, v'nefesh ramia tirav. He says, Yesh meforshim that Saadia Gaon, she'ha'atzla tapil tardema, v'zed davar TV. This is a natural thing, okay? No, this is a funny. I don't. This is going to be a physiological observation based on like old science. When a person toils and moves, Ashan ha'itzomacha mispazer v'yote derech nikve hakuf. So obviously, the smoke of the stomach, okay, which I assume means like the gases, um, disperse or spread, and they exit by way of the holes and the orifices in the body. And I think this is a good thing, the way he's saying it, because you'll see, v'yeshiv, but when he's at rest and he sits, meaning he's not doing anything, lo yispazer, then they won't disperse. Okay, aval ba'amal yispazer. I don't know if this is a mistake, because earlier he used amal as work, and now it sounds like he's talking about not working. Um, because now it says amal yispazer v'ola el hamoach umamalao. It'll go up to the brain and fill it. Vihu sibas hashena hachazaka hanigras tardema, and that's what causes the deep sleep that's called tardema. Okay, so let's just obviously, like, I don't think that's how things work. Okay, but what we have to do is we have to see like what Mishlei idea are we is he getting from this. So just to review, sounds like he's saying. So first of all, he's reading the pasuk. Atzla tapil tardema means that if you are inactive, I guess, like that seems to be the emphasis, then your stomach gases will not disperse in the correct way outside, but they'll just accumulate and they'll go straight to your brain, and then that'll make you fall asleep. Yeah. So the question is like, what's the Mishlei idea we get from that?
Very similar to what we're saying.
So I think it's similar, but I think it's actually the opposite, right? Because yesterday we were saying that your laziness will cause you to experience bodily symptoms. Here, oh, actually, no, you're right. You're right.
Meaning that sitting around will make you will want to sleep more.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is similar. Yeah. So is it similar, or is it it the same in terms of ideas? Let's see if there's a. Hold on. I did have the thought that it was opposite. Let me just think it through for a second. Laziness causes the physiological symptoms, right? That's what we were saying. Okay, so yeah, I think there is a difference. I mean, you're right. It's the same. It's the same like thrust, but how would you characterize the difference?
It's not psychosomatic.
Yeah, yeah. We were saying like a psychological effect on the body. He's saying like laziness gives rise to behavior, and the behavior has a physical effect on the body, right? Laziness makes you not disperse your gases. Yeah, and then that puts you to sleep. Right. So that's an interesting thing also because like I was trying to think of examples of this, and hold on just a second. I'm something slippery about this idea in my mind. Let me just think it through for 1 second. So we're talking here about midos that give rise to physiological symptoms. Okay, so this is kind of an extreme example of this, but in a few of the cases over the years that I've taught of students who have eating disorders, right? So obviously eating disorders can stem from different things, but let's say like one of the but it's not a far stretch to say that in many times there are psychological issues that can be solved with therapy, or can be like dealt with therapy that give that help you to recover from eating disorder. So that's my working premise here. So what I've noticed, let's say, is certain students who have a psychological condition that leads to an eating disorder. So obviously, the eating disorder has physical harms on their body, but another thing is, let's say it leads to them not either. Let's say anorexia as an example, right? That also affects your mood, and your mood affects your relationships, your personality. You can get cranky, you can get angry, you can get snappy, and it is not via the psyche. It's the psyche is affecting the body in a way that further gives rise to like physiological and midos type issues, and so like I guess the whole emphasis, the whole thrust in terms of our idea and this idea, which ironically, I mean, ironically, but like I think it's a good sign that when we were looking at Saadia Gaon just based on the translation, we took it in this direction.
Yeah.
We had no way of anticipating the stomach gas thing, but but the whole point is to focus on the relationship between the body and the midos in terms of compounding problems. Yeah. Okay. So then going on in the Meiri. About etzli lefarsho behefech. I explain it the opposite way. Now, I wish he elaborated on this, but he says shehatardema mapelas umavia haatzla. Deep sleep causes laziness. Okay, and then let's finish reading it in case it's related. But he says v'hakol, and I assume when he says hakol, he means Saadia Gaon and his approach. He'ara lezrizus. It's a lesson in however you want to translate Zrizus. Alacrity, yes. There you go. Yeah. Whenever you get the perfect word for something that no one uses, it either means it is the perfect word or it's not the perfect word. Hein bahamonios lufia nigla, whether in everyday things, I think that's like harmonios is like everyday things according to the nigla interpretation. Hein vitorios uvi iunios lufia nistar, or when it comes to Torah and learning, according to the hidden meaning, which we're going to revisit later.
Just the way he's reading the first half is it Asla Tapil Tardema?
Yeah, like really Tardema Tapil Atzla would be like the order that he's reading it is deep sleep puts you into laziness, casts you into laziness.
Laziness.
Deep sleep puts you into Yoda speak. Yeah. Yoda's a Star Trek character. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Then later on it says the nefesh of the Rumia will starve. Rumia nemar hine b'makom atzla. So Rumia here means a lazy, right? A lazy person. He asiyas hadavar b'hisrashlus, because doing something with laxity with the opposite of alacrity. Uv'inyan bilti asui karoi, and doing it in a manner that's not proper. Nikra ramia is called ramia. Amru ar osem melechas Hashem ramia, as it says, cursed is the one who makes the work of Hashem ramia. So I actually think he doesn't. Whoa, this is not covered.
It's nothing similar to him of Atla. It sounds like he's saying it's left.
Yeah. I mean, he said. I think what he means though is he means it's not deception.
Mhm.
It's like Ramia to be understood in the sense of related to Atzla. So I don't know what he means when he quotes that pasuk, but I know that the Rambam quotes Chazal's interpretation of it, where it's in Talmud Torah in the second parak, I think, which is about Tinoko Shel Beit Rabban, about like early childhood education. I just don't remember the exact case. Let me just look it up. He says,
I feel like it's a guy who's stronger than left.
yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking of as well. I thought he quoted it here. Oh, he does. Yeah. So Malame Tinokos. So this is in Hilchos Talmud Torah 2:3. Malame Tinokos who maniach as a tinokos viote. So if you're a teacher of school children and you just like leave them, okay. Oh, to otza malacha acheres iman, or you're doing other work like with them instead of teaching them. Oh, to misrachel b'talmudan, or he is lax in teaching them. Harhu bichlal or otze malachas Hashem ramia. He is included in this curse of cursed is the one who makes the work of Hashem ramia. Yeah, so that's just I guess that's the conventional understanding of that pasuk of if you're supposed to be doing the work of Hashem but you're lax in it, then you're curse worthy. Mm-hmm. And then he says, Amar Shihi Tirav, it says that soul will starve. Whether in everyday matters due to the deficiency and poverty that will come from his laziness, or in chachmos, lo ra'av lalechem, that they're not hungry for bread, which is a mashal for the fact that they're hungry for Torah. They're starved of Torah, not hungry for Torah. Hungry for Torah would be a good thing. It means they're starved of Torah. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say that, but I didn't. Yeah. Okay. Yesh meforshim. Oh, then he gives another interpretation. Yesh meforshim. Nefesh rami. Oh, so actually, sorry. Before we go into the other one, so this just sounds like this is like the conventional interpretation that for nefesh ramia tirav, that if you're lazy, then there are going to be consequences of lack. I don't know. It doesn't sound like he's really doing like giving a chiddush here. I mean, I don't know what the chiddush would be, but we'd have to like combine it with the first half, which he didn't elaborate on, of like that laziness causes you to fall into a deep sleep. I'm sorry, that deep sleep causes you to be lazy. So is it like a chain? Is it a cause and effect thing? Meaning, if you sleep a lot, that will promote laziness, and then the laziness will make you lax in your work, which will bring poverty. Might be what he's saying. Mm-hmm. So then the idea would be, so then what's the idea then? Is an interesting approach then. Yeah. He's reading the pasuk to say, deep sleep will give rise to laziness. And laziness makes you lax in your work in a way where you will suffer lack, whether it be a lack in your livelihood or a lack in your learning. So he's learning it as A leads to B leads to C. So what's the idea there?
Yeah, how does deep sleep lead to?
Yeah, that I'm not sure, and he doesn't explain. But
does that mean a lot of sleep, or does that mean like?
Yeah, he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't even define tardema except what Saadia Gaon had said.
Wake yourself up every half an hour. So
Yeah.
On the REM sleep.
Yeah, like the clock. Yeah. It's interesting. I actually was. There's a book I'm reading called Daily Rituals, and it's about the creative habits of artists, writers, scientists, and stuff like that. And one of the guys, I forgot even which profession it was in, put himself on that schedule. and he did it successfully, and like would only he'd be awake for 22 hours a day. He did it for decades or something like that. And then his wife got upset that he wasn't spending enough time with her or something like that. Like, and then so he changed to a normal sleep schedule. So that was an interesting thing. And apparently the Gra did do that, right? Like, I think that's yeah. So yeah, never underestimate the capacity for exceptional cases or for pushing the limits of the body beyond what what they can do. That's the other side of the coin of not taking into account pathology, not taking into account hyper efficiency. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know what he's defining tardema as, but let's just say, let me think for 1 second. Let's just take it as a premise and see if we can get an idea from it. Whatever it is, like somehow getting into the habit of like deep sleeping, you know.
Like, I guess like you would think that like, oh, it's just like an enjoyable thing or something that's necessary.
Yeah.
And then, it goes to armament.
Yeah.
Or it's even beneficial.
Yeah.
But, like if you overindulge, I guess, in it, then it will, have negative consequences at your meetups, and then that'll negative practical consequences.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing that's isolating here, which is that we understand actions that have negative consequences, and we understand mitos that have negative consequences, and we understand actions that promote mitos. But I guess the step that's easy to miss is the actions give rise to mitos, and the mitos give rise to consequences. So can we just, as an example of this, we just think of an example in an application in an area that doesn't have to do with laziness, and then just like that might clarify the idea.
If let's say if someone gets your order slightly wrong in a restaurant,
Yeah.
and you send it back, or like insist that you're not going to pay unless they get it right,
Yeah.
then that will make you not exactly sure what the mida is, but you'll be like you'll become like more expectant that they should be not making mistakes.
Yeah.
And then like I said, you'll grow angrier when they when something like that happens, and then you might like yell at them or like make a scene or like
And then what's the consequence of the, like, what would be the step C?
well, that's
Or are you saying that is the step C?
that's the step C, but
Oh.
there's a lot like ramifications of that, looks bad, people don't
Right. I thought of an example. Something about what you said made me think of a different example, and I don't remember the exact wording of the Gemara, but there's some Gemara that says that if you are a Talmid Chacham and you make fun of Amei Haaretz, then your kids will be Amei Haaretz. And I heard an explanation of that once. Again, I don't remember the exact wording, but I remember an explanation of that once where, like, the person who is, the behavior is making fun of Amei Haaretz. And the midah that fuels, clearly that is stemming from and reinforcing this, relative value system of like, I am better, I as a Talmid Chacham am better than Amei Haaretz because I learned Torah, and like that loser doesn't. Like it's treating Torah as like a value of like, I'm ahead in the social realm, and that will affect your parenting in a way where your kid is going to sense like this tremendous pressure to become a Talmid Chacham so as not to like, upset like his father, like be looked down on in his father's eyes, and that's going to mess up his relationship to Torah, and so like that's the thing where like the guy who's making fun of Amei Haaretz doesn't realize he's fueling a midah, and that midah is going to have an effect on the external world to yield another consequence. It's like the hidden like midah bridge in the middle. Okay. So then the next thing he says, V'yet meforshim nefesh rumia So he didn't. It's funny. He didn't explain nefesh before. That like he just seems to say nefesh Ramia is the same as Ramia, but nefesh Ramia Ratlam Hamitzrachim b'malachto uboteach lachayos begnevos uvegzelos, which are mine ho'onos. Now he's saying Ramia means deceptive. So someone who is lax in his work. I mean, he's not abandoning the laziness thing. Someone who is lax in his work and trusts in a livelihood based on theft and robbery and other types of cheating. Tira, he will starve, because they are things that the eyes of the public are on their masters. I think that means like people are always on the lookout for people who are cheating and stealing. And then it's funny, he quotes a thing from, I think, Megillah. Is it from Megillah? Oh, no. Oh, yeah, okay. So he goes up talking Megillah. You're not going to get a miracle every day. You know, so that I don't know the context of Psakim, but in the Megillah one, that's the one where like Rava chefs Rabbi Zera, and then like he davens for him and resurrects him, and then he invites him to the Masuda the next year, and he says, "I don't get a miracle every year," you know, which is I love the application to this, because what it's saying is like, yeah, you might get away with cheating to make money, but like you should view that as a miraculous thing, not something you can count on, you know. And like therefore you're not going to be able to constantly be stealing from people to get stuff, you know. And then he goes on and he explains what that is. Amru zal derech tzachos. So Chazal say this by way of I think that's like the Avram and Ram's like poetic way, like not a real drasha or not a real interpretation, but a drasha that's like for rhetorical effect. V'hayu chayecha teluim lecha mineged. Your life, this is in Kisavo in the Klalos. Your life will be hanging before you, in front of you. I mean, negative. I don't know how to translate that in this context. Zeh hasamuk al shulchan acherim. This is someone who relies on the table of others. Okay. Ubichlal zeh kol shemichiyata tluya be'acherim al edei tzad sheyihiyeh. So I guess plain shot is if you're dependent on other people for your livelihood, then there's always going to be like this insecurity that the livelihood will drop away. And he's extending this to things like stealing, where if your livelihood is dependent on other people in terms of stealing, where it's even worse, like if you have a job that's dependent on someone, like most people who have jobs are, you know, then like it's true to be taken away, but at least it's a regular thing. But if you're dependent on like stealing and trickery, then you're not always going to get these opportunities, especially if it's a heavily scrutinized area. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to do another one? I don't think that really. Well, I guess we'd have to say. So what then is the idea? See, it's hard to tell. Is he just changing the second half and he's trying to pair this with the idea that deep sleep puts you into laziness? Because if so, then I don't really see what the connection is between this meforshim idea and like the his original idea.
I don't think this is correlated to it. I don't think he's linking this to a specific thing. Maybe you think there's it's the Muchas Lebin Ezra.
Yeah.
So maybe we can see.
We could look at that. Yeah, Muchas Lebin Ezra. So Muchas Lebin Ezra starts on the previous page. Yeah. Atzla. So this is answering your question, Isaac, about the Atzlus and Atzla. Shem davar, it's a noun. I'll just call it Mosa. Like instead of saying Maves, Mosa. Same thing. Kivtsa is same thing as a keves. Okay. So Klomer ha'atzla, he papil tardema al ha'atzel. That laziness will make deep sleep fall upon the lazy person. Same thing with the soul that thinks, that plots deceiving people. It will starve. Rumia, I'll just call it tzedia. Okay, so he doesn't really explain much. Yeah. All right, let's do Rabbeinu Yonah because I only got 9 minutes. Rabbeinu Yonah started on the previous page on the right column for some reason. He's not supposed to be there. Atzla, Tabio Tardema, Milvad HaNezek HaNimsa, now left column, the Atzla, Be'ichur Haskalatapol. Okay, aside from the harm that comes to the lazy person from procrastination, from delaying the start of an action, the Gam, the Eis HaPoal, and also the harm during the activity, Ki Hazaris, Bahazahir, Bimalachto, Yifal, Basha, Achatz, Yoser, Min Ha'atal, B'shtei Shalos. You know where we are? No. This is on page, Papkuk Lamed Gimel.
Yes.
Left, yeah, okay. Because the lazy person will accomplish in 2 hours what the Zaris accomplished within 1 hour. Oh, Nezek Acher Tavi Asla. Okay, so in other words, he's saying like this. We know that if you're lazy, you're going to be late to start things. we know that if you're lazy, then when you're working, you're not going to accomplish as much as the Zari. But this is coming to say something else, namely, Papil Tardema. Ki hachafetz b'malacha ye'orer lev ha'adam aleha, or chafetz probably, that desire in work will arouse the heart of a person on it, meaning to do the work. V'atel asher ein lo chafetz ba, but the lazy person who does not have a desire in it, tolid atzluso tardema, his laziness will give rise to deep sleep. Al kain lo titlach b'malachta lo tatilehu me'onyo. Therefore, he will not succeed in his work, and it will not save him from his poverty. Okay, let's read the whole thing and try to get a big picture. V'nefesh rumia tirav, and the soul of the rumia will starve. Gam bezritim v'yagiyim lahashir, even with those who are alacritous and strive to become wealthy. Yesh mida teroshet ba'ala. There is a mida which will impoverish its possessor. Ki hanivhal lahon, someone who's like frantically trying to get money. V'latos osher b'chamas v'tarmit v'ona'ah, and is trying to make money with robbery and deception and cheating. Yovad oshro b'inyan ra. His wealth will be lost in a bad way. V'tirav nafshan, he'll starve. Okay, now what's the point? Hine ha'atla v'atarmis. So laziness and deceptiveness. Shtei midos elu yiroshishu ba'alein. These two midos will impoverish their possessors. Gam lamala samach shlomo olav tam shtei midos. Shlomo juxtaposed these two midos earlier. Rosh ozekapamia, which we quoted yesterday. A deceptive person makes a deceptive scale makes a pauper. The nirdam bakatir, and one who's fast asleep at the harvest is an embarrassing son. So I was talking about laziness according to him. Okay, fine. So let's stop there because that's another thing. So he's saying that the subject of the pasuk, which is a weird one, is two midos that impoverish those who possess them. Laziness, because it makes you inefficient at work and makes you go to sleep, which he didn't really, sleep is not a big thing in his appearance. He's just saying it's going to make you it's yet another thing that's going to make you, impoverished.
You're gonna not be motivated to start your day and to
Yeah, but it's funny, the very fact that he brings in stuff that the pasuk doesn't talk about, like the before and during, and this one's just the after. Sounds like, according to him, it's just saying, it's referencing one feature of the atel, but really it just means being a lazy person, which is an interesting category in Mishlei. Like I would be inclined to read the idea as being essentially about the Tardema thing. He's just saying, he explains the ideas that the pasuk doesn't say more than he explains the idea that the pasuk does say, So that's just good to keep in our Mishlei tool belt, obviously we should try to interpret the pasuk based on what it says, but sometimes it will be talking about a midah by way of one of the expressions of the midah. And really the reason it's bringing it up is to talk about the midah as a whole. I think that's a new methodological insight. Okay. And then the second half he's saying is deceptiveness will impoverish the owner. So the question is what idea do we get from this? I can think of lots of things that impoverish the owner. If you're a drunk, you're also not going to be able to work very effectively, and you're going to lose money. Or if you are, if you have too much pride, there's a psukim where you don't want to get a lowly job because you don't want to be looked at in a certain way. You're also not going to be rich. So why these two? And let me just layer this on with one more question, which we might not be able to answer these. Rashi really intrigued me here. Okay, so look at Rashi on the previous page. Atzla tabil tardema, ha'atzlus mevia lidei shena, zohi hamalitza. So laziness brings you into sleep. Okay, so you see he doesn't care about tardema versus shena. Okay, whatever. And that's the malita. I forgot what Rashi's definition of malita is. I think he means the external meaning. Okay. Aval hamashal, but the mashal, which I think is saying the internal meaning, al hamis atel b'talmud, is talking about someone who makes himself lazy in learning. Sofo kishasholi mimeno devar chachma, harihu kinirdam. When they ask him a matter of chachma, he will be like he's asleep, meaning he won't be able to respond. And then nefesh remia tirav, sof ya'ani, in the end he'll become poor. V'chein, so that's the literal meaning. V'chein haramai b'talmudo, someone who is deceptive sorry, not deceptive. I don't think he's learning deceptive. He says ramai, but you tell me what he means. Someone who's ramai in his Talmud, lasos toraso chavilos. I've heard of in osin mitzvos chavilos. I've never heard of osin betalmudo chavilos. And then what does he say that means? Sofo shehu shocheach. In the end, he will forget. Okay. And then if you look at the footnote, it says Ervin Nundalat Amud Beis, which actually I looked that up just now, and it darshans a different pasuk. It says Lo Yachroch Ramia Tsedo, that the Ramia will not roast his catch. And Rashi there says Rashi Sham Shemarbe the Girsa ve'eno machazer al Talmudo. He like tries to like get a lot of bakios but doesn't review, so he'll forget. So the question is like what is Rashi saying? And is that related to Rabbeinu Yonah? Like, it reminded me of Rabbeinu Yonah in the sense of it's two midos that cause you to be poor in Torah, you know?
Yeah. I think my thought about reading Yona,
Okay,
not with Rashi,
that's fine.
is like there are mitos that can make you poor. These are things that will necessarily make you poor. Like you are not going to be able to become like wealthy if you aren't willing to work.
Right.
You're not like you can be like smart about how you're working and do it more efficiently, but if you're not motivated to like do the things that you need to do,
Yeah.
then you're not going to be able to.
Okay, that's good. And just to differentiate it from mitos that can make you poor but are not necessary, let's say an excessive risk taker. So he can make a lot of money, but he can also become very poor.
Yeah.
You know, like, so that's a mita that you would have to guard against in terms of poverty, but like it's it's or the example I said, the guy who's prideful, so that could inhibit him from working in things that he considers degrading, but it could also be a motivator in like wanting to get the ego pleasure of being a rich man. These are like guaranteed. Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah.
And like you won't be able to make money if you don't work.
Yeah.
If you're making money in like a deceptive way, you will be caught and you'll just become poor.
Good. So I like that idea, and then that opens up two categories of mitos. So there are mitos that are like me'akev results, and then there are mitos that are like monea results, like they withhold it. Like I'm just whatever the left and the wrong is in Hilchos Tshuva. What is it like the 24 things that are me'akev tshuva, but they're not monea. So maybe me'akev is the wrong word. Whatever it is, there are mitos that absolutely prevent certain results, and then there are mitos that inhibit certain results but don't make it impossible. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, good. And I got to go now.
Yeah.
So, all right, next pasuk tomorrow. All right.